Welcome to another day in the Matrix. This is Waters Above, and since we last connected, Bitcoin has hit 44K, a technical target we've been keeping an eye on in preparation for this move above 40,000, and the Dow Jones officially hit an all-time high this week on the day of the Federal Reserve FOMC meeting, and as we speak, the Nasdaq is within 1% of following suit. We could very well see new all-time highs for the S&P and Nasdaq before the end of this year, so we'll be covering all of that in today's video. With a focus on this recent Bitcoin rejection at 44K, we'll be reviewing the charts to see what to expect next for this crypto market as we inch closer to the holiday season and transition into 2024. So if you're new here, we do cryptocurrency technical analysis and combine it with Gematria, Numerology, and Astrology to understand these markets. Feel free to subscribe and turn on the bell notification to stay updated on when new videos come out, and make sure to give this video a like and share this channel with other conscious beings to help grow our community. And with that being said, let's take the clear pill. Well, as mentioned in the last couple videos I've released, regarding the astrology, we had the new moon on December 12th and Mercury stationed retrograde the following day on the same day as the last FOMC meeting of the year, which was December 13th, this Wednesday. And on that day, the Dow Jones hit a new all-time high, as mentioned in the intro. And to recap all of this from an esoteric perspective, the FOMC meeting was on a Wednesday, miércoles, the day of Mercury, and the same day Mercury stationed retrograde. Again, Mercury is tied to the messenger and being the god associated with debt or money created out of thin air. Mercury is the prince of the power of the air, the god of fiat money, which is the Federal Reserve System and the stock market and cryptocurrency. We have the direct connection between crypto and Mercury when utilizing Gematria as well. We have Mercury giving us 23 in Chaldean, as well as Bitcoin giving us 23 in Chaldean in the same cipher. And considering the year we're moving into being 2024, the Hebrew year of 5,784, which adds up to 24. And speaking of Mercury, which also goes by the title Hermes, and you could see that 24 in Chaldean, like Satoshi giving you 24 in the same cipher. This is very important moving into this upcoming year. And we could also bring up the full word, cryptocurrency, having 204 in English ordinal. Again, this cipher is as simple as ABC is 1, 2, 3, all the way through Z being 26. This is a key cipher to consider. And when I'm doing Gematria, I like to focus on Chaldean and English ordinal as my main, and then my second most important would be this full reduction. Taking what you get in the ordinal, reducing it with numbers below 9, as you do in numerology. So, with this connection to cryptocurrency equaling 204 in English ordinal, to go a little bit deeper, using the rules of numerology, you're going to remove the 0, and that brings you back to 24. This is why I'm calling 2024 the year of the X. X being the 24th letter in the alphabet, and I've been sharing a lot of information about that over the past 6 months with everyone. I had a full decode shared in my Mastermind community over on Patreon titled The Great American Eclipse, and it's about this X that's forming over the state of Texas, and all tied to Elon Musk acquiring Twitter and changing it to X Corp. That was one of my best decodes I've ever released, and I do plan on a follow-up part 2 of that decode, because the second eclipse of that series will be on April 8th of 2024. This is very powerful stuff. So I'll be making that very soon. But for now, getting back to this X symbology, the symbol of XRP, of course, is the X. Another reason I've made XRP one of my main focuses for accumulation for this cycle. XRP, of course, tied to Ripple. Ripple giving you 27 in the same cipher as Jupiter, the king of the gods, giving you 27, and the Jupiter zodiac symbol is the 24. This is powerful. You could also tie this back to Helios or Apollo or Apollyon or the sun. Because of 24 hours in a day, you have your sun-moon, day-night duality. But this lightning bolt symbolism also is crucial as we move into the next year. Anything that deals with water or deals with Jupiter, this is going to be big. And I'm going to break this down more as we progress through into the next year. Don't worry. But I do just want to remind everyone, I talked about this years ago when I started my channel, this Jupiterian essence of Ripple, and tied directly to that 27 code, like I just showed you moments ago, with 27 in Chaldean for Jupiter and Ripple giving you 27. That zodiac logo perfectly tied to the X, the symbol of XRP. I know this is a little bit more esoteric, but I'm giving you this game here on YouTube videos, so take notes. It's just how this whole thing works. It's all scripted. It was written. You just have to have the eye to see, and then it'll be clear. And you won't need to say that the elites hide anything from us anymore, because the truth is in plain sight. Again, you must require or acquire the eye to see. The pineal gland. And I'm showing you this system that runs this space. So use this system and don't let it use you. Getting back to Mercury retrograde, Mercury stations direct on New Year's. So that'll be January 1st of 2024. The fake New Year, by the way. So this energy will be moving us through Saturnalia because we have Mercury retrograde from just a couple days ago on Wednesday, the day the stock market hit a new all-time high, all the way over to New Year's. And in the midst of all of that, we have the Saturnalia festival. So this is crucial because if it deals with Saturn, then it deals with Satoshi. And if it deals with Satoshi, it rules the energy of crypto as a whole. No matter what altcoin you're into, doesn't matter. Again, this is just how this market works. It's esoteric, but if you spend enough time on this channel, you have enough proof. The Saturnalia festival is between December 17th, which is this upcoming Sunday, which will also be the release of my new Red Pill podcast over on Patreon at patreon.com/watersabove for the Mastermind community membership. And anyone who's in our community, let me know in the comments section below. I would love your feedback on the recent Red Pill podcasts and market updates. I've been sharing more frequent update posts with charts to bring even more value to that membership. And I feel the Red Pill podcasts are just getting more and more dialed in as these weeks progress. And I'm making sure to share my outlook in a way that's simple yet effective and has utility for those who resonate no matter what skill level you're at, so that you can acquire the tools to become a self-reliant investor. That's our mission here at Waters Above. I don't want people following me. I want you to remember something you've always known. I'm just a part of the process of wiping away the cosmic amnesia, and you do the same for me too. That's the beauty of what we're doing here. So getting back to the Saturnalia festival, December 17th through December 23rd, that's the true Christos Mas, the days of the darkness, considered the best of days when called Saturnalia, but it's also the darkest days. That's what influenced the concept called the purge. And I'll be breaking all this down and my entire decoding system in a user-friendly course structure with my new decoding mastermind that's set to release soon. And there's a lot of interest in this, so I appreciate all of your support and all of your interest. It really means the world to me. I just want you to know I'm working very hard behind the scenes to make this course experience feel like no other course you've ever invested in. It will be an incredibly unique and interactive experience for all learning styles and all skill levels. I'm really excited to share this project with the world. And of course, I'll make sure to update you all when that's ready to launch. It'll give you even more clarity into what I'm doing when I start off these videos here on YouTube as well regarding our decoding. So with Saturnalia starting this weekend, and all this being directly tied to crypto because Saturn is Satoshi and we're still in Mercury retrograde at this time, I showed you how Mercury is directly tied to the code of Bitcoin just moments ago with the number 23, and we have the last day of Saturnalia being the 23rd of December, the day that we move into Capricorn in tropical astrology. So this is really powerful stuff. Once you start adding in these extra elements, you're going to see it's going to make a much more holistic system when you take the numerology and the Gematria and the astrology. So when we're talking about Capricorn, Capricorn being ruled by Saturn, again, tied back to Saturn, Satoshi. And this recent new moon we had just a couple days ago that we're still kind of in today was a new moon in Capricorn. There is so much Saturnian essence going on as we speak, and it lasts until the end of this year. And consider in sidereal astrology, we'd be in Sagittarius, ruled by Jupiter. Again, we showed those connections earlier, and I personally put more weight on 13 sign sidereal. So for me, this is the key to consider, the more esoteric perspective. We're in sidereal Sagittarius through the new year. That's powerful. Moving into 2024. And we have the 24 symbolism tied directly to Jupiter, and Jupiter rules over Sagittarius. The archer tied to the centaur and Chiron. This archery symbolism in the mythology goes way back, and it's been plagiarized through so many different ancient civilizations. Again, can't wait to share this Decoding Mastermind course. I feel like it's going to finally connect all these dots. But with this being said, this tie back to Jupiter or Saturn, they're always going to be interconnected anyways, because it's father and son. It's Luke and Darth Vader, or Anakin. It's the same mythological story that they play out time and time again in Hollywood. So I feel this is pretty important, and in my last couple videos, we were reviewing the past Bitcoin cycles to determine how this bull trap would end, and we took note of the 2012 cycle taking about 15 days from the top, or from moving into essentially this golden pocket territory that we have right here. And why I transitioned from the whole Sagittarius and December thing into what we're going into now is because one of the things that we pointed out very early on when we were exploring this analysis of moving up into this golden pocket bull trap was how there was a pattern that it was always happening in the summertime. You could see over here it was happening in August. Over here it was happening in June. Over here it was happening in June. But over here we're moving into it in pretty much our winter time. Right there before the solstice, essentially. Also, shout out to all my Aussie and New Zealand wolves that are not having winter during August. I know what that's like because I actually used to live in Melbourne for a couple months. But anyways, getting back to this move that we have in this time of the year, it is very weird how we're getting this right now. But also, I want everyone to remember that right now is a completely different environment than we had back in 2012 or in the cycle of 2016 or even in 2019. Totally different world. Here we're in the post C19 realm of everyone going and working at home now. These skyscrapers in Midtown and Manhattan are pretty much vacant. It's totally different. I mean, we could list all day the differences: hyperinflation, watching currency collapse and debasement across pretty much most countries that aren't using the US dollar or the euro or the pound. And I think this environment that we're in, we must consider, right? Even though we do have a cyclical pattern, we always want to look at the geopolitical and all things considered to have a holistic thesis. One of the most important things right now, specifically for cryptocurrency, would be this looming Bitcoin ETF launch, right? So we know that that's a different essence than what we would have had back in, let's just say 2012, when this thing was called a scam, even though it went from where it went to 24,000% up. And the same cycle, the same time, the same cycle later, you see that it repeats its patterns, and that's because of astrology, numerology, and Gematria, not because of things like Bitcoin ETF. Okay, so we have to be aware that, of course, there's these buy the rumor, sell the news effects to the market, but it's just because we're looking at it day to day as we're focused on the sector. But if we were to just buy and hold over these long time horizons in the correct assets, we would see how lucrative it would play out. And here on this channel, we've figured out when these big pivot points happen in the market regarding all-time highs, all-time lows, and bull traps. And what we're in right now is in the midst of a bull trap. It's just seemingly happening earlier than what we would have had. Now, the one element to this could very well be the fact that we were in a Jubilee year. And again, I don't have too much time in this video to cover that, but that is also an important element because we only have one Jubilee every 50 years. And you guys that were following along here in September and October, you remember once that Jubilee was over, we immediately had a ritual on the world stage of the war starting in Israel between them and Palestine. Nobody could deny this. This is unbelievable stuff. That this market is just ritualized and this world stage is just ritualized. So the fact that we see an all-time high in the stock market right now and what's going on with interest rates, and we're seeing this bull essence right now, it shouldn't surprise anyone because this is very out of left field, but that's also very Jubilee-like. So I hope this is all starting to make sense to people who've been following along now for the past couple months. And if you're brand new here, this is like the greatest time to get interested in this asset class because you'll have this awareness a year in advance while most people are waiting to FOMO in when it's overpriced. So this is a beautiful thing. I want people to see now that what we have right here with Bitcoin does feel like we're topping out in the short term. And we're going to do a couple of, play-by-plays just so we could wrap all this up, of course. We wanted to review the way that this bull trap would end, and we took note of this 2012 cycle taking about 15 days from interaction with this the macro golden pocket, You could see that's 15 days, and then we have this blow off top. Then over here in the 2016 cycle, we have the same essence interaction with the golden pocket, the 618, and we get 15 days. So if we were to go over to today's cycle and explore what we're seeing, from the day of December 2nd, technically we closed above the 618 fib, trading in the macro golden pocket. We're at 13 days right now, and a full 15 days would be this Sunday, which is Saturnalia. Now, Bitcoin doesn't need to mimic these cycles 100%. We just realized a pattern here, and so far it's been playing out cycle after cycle, and this time is no different. Even the move up to this 702 fib that we have right here at 44K, that's actually what happened in this 2012 cycle. You can see that right there, rejection at the 702. But so far, the difference that we have is the timing of making this move, the fact that it usually happens in June, July, August. Right now it's happening in December. And the second thing would be the percentage move to the upside. In all of these past iterations where you're seeing these X's, we see a sharp move of about 10 to 14 days, moving up about 35 to 45% to the upside after closing above this golden pocket territory. So far, Bitcoin in the current cycle has only moved up a little bit over 14%. So only about halfway or so, slightly under halfway. Even a move slightly under 30% for Bitcoin based on what we're looking at in today's charts would be a 50K Bitcoin. So thus far, it has not been as dramatic to the upside. And also this liquidation ritual we just got on Monday, that hasn't been nearly as much losses as we've seen in past iterations as well. So we're not as bullish and we're also not as bearish. We're very neutral, actually. And generally, I actually had a mind-blowing moment in my last Red Pill podcast when we were talking about the yearly gains on Bitcoin versus the altcoins. If you take from January 1st on Bitcoin and you go up to our cycle top, Bitcoin has effectively moved up 170% this year. But if you do this with ETH, if you go from the first day of the year, right there at around $1,180, and you can see that ETH has only moved up 100%. If you do the same thing with XRP, also pretty fascinating. If you go to the beginning of the year, you really get down at that low close, 33 cents. I mean, you could technically play this wick, but that really wouldn't be fair because that was a fake out bull trap. But let's just call it 125%. As of today, we're only 86% up. Bitcoin, we're well over 150% up from year start. So this is a thing that I warned people about as we're transitioning into a solar cycle, which started here. You really want to consider that Bitcoin can do really well, and it could have this vibe that's elusive and confusing. And you'll see these talking heads on mainstream media tell you to sell it all, and then they'll tell you to buy it all when it's up. You know, you really have to avoid that type of drama. Here we have no drama. It's just the truth. With what we're seeing right now with Bitcoin, it doesn't feel as dramatic as what we have seen in the past. And that's a good thing. That's a sign of maturity. So we're still in the middle of this move. With the stock market breaking out to all-time highs, it would be very strange to see Bitcoin having a 20 to 30% correction right now, with the traditional markets being so bullish. But that's just basics. Most of you know that already. But of course, here in crypto land, we can have isolated shakeouts because all of the leverage traders are using, an absurd amount of leverage in this market. And once the order books fill up, the market maker knows exactly how much liquidity it would take to liquidate you. It's how this game is played. So now let's explore the technical setup on Bitcoin right now and see what's going on from a more exoteric perspective to round out our investment thesis. And the one thing that I've wanted to pay attention to is this 3-day chart on Bitcoin. We had a very crucial 3-day close that came in after this liquidation ritual. And you can see this 8 simple moving average has been holding as a solid support. So that's that yellow moving average I want you to pay attention to right now. When we go back in all of the prior cycles for Bitcoin, we could see that it's this 8 simple moving average on the 3-day. Once we start closing below it, that marks the sign of our bull trap top. You can see that right there. Now we're going to go to the cycle before. It's about right here. And you could see right there the red candle closing below the 8, and then we were down from there and sideways for a long time. Go to the cycle before, right here, same time frame. Once we close the 8 simple once we closed below the 8 simple on the 3-day chart, we marked our top and we stayed sideways for a while. Okay, so we've already talked about this idea of Bitcoin having a pretty dramatic correction and then sideways for about 5 to 6 months. In some situations, maybe even 7 to 8 months. You could see this here. Big move to the upside, rejection, close below the 8 simple moving average, sideways for about 5 months. Over here, you can see the same essence. We have a sharp move to the upside, close below the 8 simple moving average, sideways for about half a year. Up here, it's a little bit more dramatic. When we closed below the 8 simple moving average, we were below after marking that top for 400 days. Okay, so it's no joke. The idea to de-risk at this time, I'm not telling anyone what to do. I'm personally not even going to worry about de-risking unless Bitcoin hits 47 to 48K. I don't care if it does or it doesn't. It's just trading. When you have a plan, you trade the plan, you remove the emotions, and you remove the desire. Because once you have desire, that's when this thing starts controlling you. And you're no longer playing the game is playing you. Words of wisdom, take note on what I just said. So this moment that we're in right now, it's showing us that the 8 simple has been holding very well. We're holding and we're retesting it after a couple of 3-day closures. And today could technically be marking some structure, but I'll be getting a little bit more into this in a moment. I want to show you how the daily chart is actually what starts this whole story that we just pointed out on the 3-day. And it has to do with the 21 exponential moving average. And over on Twitter recently, or x.com, I should call it, I released this post and talking about this the 21 EMA on the daily chart. So if you guys like these updates over here at Waters Above, make sure you spell it correctly. That's where I'll be giving some short-term updates as well if you're interested in that kind of stuff. So the 21 EMA is crucial when we're in this breakout energy. I want you all to take note of that. And if we were to close below that, I do think that would signal us a move below 40, pretty quick, below 40K. And now if we go to past iterations, this is where I could show you what I mean. We're going to see a couple of things that Bitcoin does at this stage. We have a MACD cross to the downside and a daily close below the 21 EMA, which happened over here. That effectively marked the top. So we had the MACD cross to the downside, close below the 21 EMA on the daily, downtrend. Now we're going to go over here to this prior cycle. Apologies for this taking some time to load. So we're going to see we have MACD cross to the downside, top out. We close below the 21 EMA right here, down. So this would be the first thing to consider. But I already shared this a week ago with everyone for free on x.com. Over here, we have the 2012 cycle. And let me just get to you right here. Boom. We could see MACD crossed to the downside after it's overextended, closed below the 21 EMA, and that was a huge signal. These have been much more dramatic tops. You see this one looked like a blow-off top. This one over here, again, not so fun. Huge correction that came in late in the game. Still super sideways for a long period of time. Here literally looked like a mid-cycle bull run. Blow-off top structure, downtrend. So I want you all to keep your eyes on this now because we've had the MACD cross to the downside. So this was one of the major confirmations showing weakness. The second major confirmation would be a daily close below the 21 EMA. That would probably lead us to more continuation of the downside. And the first target that I would look at would be 38K. Now, we can have this whole move to the downside and move back up all within this month and the month of January. This is very quick, and I've showed this in past videos, so definitely go watch my last couple of videos I've released about this. One thing to also get into is a micro pennant that's forming right now. I'm going to turn off some of this noise, and I'm just going to show you what Bitcoin is doing. On this pennant, we're showing a clear descending resistance, about 1 week of data, and support rising about 4 days of data. So this is looking pretty good. We would not call this a triangle because we're not on multiple weeks of data yet. When we start getting to about 3 weeks to a month, that's when we would call it a triangle. So just some basic TA lessons for everyone right now. Also, this could break out today, considering we're about 75% through the apex of this pattern. And consider Bitcoin has technically a macro higher highs and higher lows continuation pattern, which gives this pennant a bullish bias. But Bitcoin on the daily chart does show another important data point, which is a clear bearish divergence on the daily chart. And we're seeing it noticeable around this move up in October 22. And we were getting to around 88 RSI. So that's very overheated, right? So we have a lower highs, lower lows on the RSI, and then we have higher highs, higher lows on price. This bearish divergence is pretty obvious, and I don't want us to feel overly, committed to one direction over the next. In general, we're at the higher end of a bull trap. So playing fancy right now is never the move. Also, when Bitcoin is in this environment, the slightest pullback could lead to huge moves down for the altcoins, and then Bitcoin being slightly up and chilling out could lead to 30% pumps on a random altcoin. So altcoin holders are probably noticing a lot of volatility right now. I just want everyone to be aware. We've been calling this whole bull trap essence since the start here on this channel. Over 7 months ago is when I was really expecting us to have a noticeable recovery into this higher territory of a bull trap. About 7 months ago, we shared an outlook of 40K Bitcoin before the end of the year. And here we are. We're trading in that 40K territory, and it's almost Christmas. So far, we're looking really on point regarding our outlook and how long ago we shared that outlook. But today's chart is showing a very precarious essence, all right? So whether we're moving up from here, it's honestly unimportant for my overall investment thesis. But if Bitcoin wants to swipe up to 47 or 48K, I'd definitely be de-risking. But what does matter more to me is getting a deeper correction down into the lower 30K zone, which would be a gift for all altcoin investors to continue our accumulation of these heavily discounted projects before the show really gets started in Q4 of 2024. And remember the title of a couple videos ago when I wrote 50K Bitcoin, that was based off of all the cycles and the move up that we've seen. That wasn't me saying we will go to 50K. That was looking at the past and seeing past performance. That's called technical analysis, not opinions. So we've gotten into this territory now. We have to see what Bitcoin's going to do. And with the stock market doing what it's doing, it's actually looking pretty promising. We're going into a weekend though, so I want you guys to be considerate of that. With the Bitcoin trading alone, and with the way these altcoins have been moving lately, there could definitely be room for one final push up before we have the full moon. And I'm personally looking at 2,000% gains projected on several altcoin projects that I've done analysis on in my Red Pill podcasts. So these are some of the best opportunities to position ourselves before we really move into bull mode on the alts. And I'm talking about after Bitcoin has any corrections coming up soon. So to wrap up the Bitcoin analysis, consider this pennant has a breakout target of about 38K to the downside and slightly around 47K to the upside. And I'll go into like a 4-hour chart and I'll quickly pull a micro fib for everyone. So we're going to do a fib pull from this swing high to this swing low. We're going to double click and make sure that this is checked off. This way it's in linear. And we're going to go look at where our golden ratio is, which is sitting at 47,500. So this is pretty important stuff. If we were to have one more swipe to the upside, that would be where I'd be looking at personally for a conservative de-risk. But just consider we cannot completely disregard all the past analysis that we've shared of higher targets. But that would most likely just be a wick to the upside that gets rejected and still have a daily close below 47K in the same trading day, which is how the prior iterations came to their finality during this bull trap. Now let's move over into Ethereum and check out that chart, and then we'll be finishing off today's video with XRP. So we have ETH holding this upper level after a double rejection back in August and April, start of our solar cycle, at $2,000. We've effectively broke out, and if you look at where this back tested, it was at the peak of April 16th. So this is looking like a very confident bounce. If we were to be pushing up higher, my target still stands. It would be between 2,500 2,600 USD for ETH. That's about as high as I would see this going. And this does align with this prior support, which has broken down and has yet to be retested as a resistance. Retesting it now as a resistance would be the perfect place to call a bull trap top and then a little bit of a correction sideways and then continue out later into next year. We have these deeper pullback zones around the 382 fib that still stands. Let's pull up some of our moving averages and see what's going on. We can see that we're in a bullish posture with the 8, the 55, and the 200s in that sequence. And then, of course, we have all of these EMAs also looking a bullish posture. But I want you to consider what I shared before with Bitcoin on the daily chart. With ETH, instead of the 21 like you would have with Bitcoin, we want to look at the 34 EMA. So if we're going to be closing a daily for ETH under the 34 EMA, that would be when I suspect a swipe below 1900, heading towards about these 200 moving averages at 1820 to 1840. That would be the way I would look at this comparatively to the way Bitcoin moves. Much more volatility, of course, and this is lagging along on the yearly performance comparatively to Bitcoin, and I just showed you that before with percentage gains. So this one is still just choppy and kind of holding its range, and we've effectively been in this territory now going on 580 days. So the fact that we haven't jumped into the golden pocket just yet, it's showing this is really maturing comparatively to the last cycle where it was pumpy dumpy. We had these huge volatile moves and pretty lackluster performance on the AR as well. So I'm not going to spend too much time on this. Needless to say, we have our upside target somewhere around 25 to 2600, and then most likely a pullback below the 0.5 fib with one final last chance to get sub $2,000 Ethereum in the future. So let's see how that plays out. But so far, that's most likely how it's going to go if Bitcoin was to finalize its move and then have a correction. Then we have XRP, and I just want to show people we still have this fractal in play, and it has not changed. And this fractal shows that if we are to continue to mimic it, it would be right after the full moon that we would have a recovery and sending us back into the levels of what we had at the peak of July this year. So this was when the SEC, the whole case with them deeming that XRP is no longer a security. And although the SEC case is still ongoing, I just want to be careful with my words because a lot of people after that moment thought the case was over between SEC and Ripple, and that's not it. There's been many wins since, and XRP no longer being deemed a security is an absolute win for XRP holders, but the case is still going. And I think what will really see, that exoteric narrative be the most helpful is when it's just completely over. Now, I suspect that'd be in March or April, and that's perfect alignment for future analysis. But to keep it on track here, we have this sort of breakout of this fractal into the same area that we've seen Bitcoin trade into recently. It would be right around the 702 fib, and it's showing us a 120 XRP. So for me, this is not just playing around with the charts. This was a move that we've been watching stage by stage for months on this channel. Even back here to this initial breakout of this major resistance line, I was connecting with Bearable Bull at that time. We were talking all about these specifics. We talked about this jump up to 80 to 90 cents being a de-risk opportunity followed by a bigger correction. And what I've really identified is just the cyclicality of this pattern that's right here. And we're about right there in the pattern. We've had a correction since and holding sideways and up. And that's kind of the essence of what we have right now. If I turn off all the noise, you're going to see exactly what I mean. Sideways and up generally, and we're holding trend. So we have low, higher low, higher low, higher low, still higher lows. This could also be forming a symmetrical triangle. I know this would make this chart particularly a little messy, but it could look something like this. Just to pay attention really to the trend line that I'm drawing for you. And our apex is coming very soon. So that would not be weird to have near the end of the year, around late December, bounce on the outside and then have a pretty dramatic move into the month of January, which aligns with the new moon of January. That's January 11th. So I'm going to leave it at that. I will be covering this all much more in depth on this weekend's Red Pill podcast, which will be the first day of Saturnalia. I appreciate every single one of you for tuning in all the way to the end. It really means the world to me. And I'm wishing you all a beautiful rest of your week in the Matrix. Much love.